come on in.
Maggie.
You guys have met before. This is my mom.
I'm not a camera shy. The poems are a delight. It's been a delight a television producer. No surprise for shows like Mr. Rogers, who's one of my great idols, and give us a.
I want to say, Kathleen, and also thank her for her generosity and let us have a space like this to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
And thank you everybody for coming. What I've tried to do with this is take poems from my journals and from my notes, spanning really, well, from 1962 to 2024. And I was sort of sorting through them. It not only said something to the era in which I wrote them, it said something about who I was in that period of my life. And I think as I read them, I hope you will be able to identify the certain patterns in my life that also were probably patterns in your life, as we move through it. As I said in the last campaign, we have so much more in common than we have in difference. So this is really a walk through my life, an old young man to an old man, and the difference is this, we all have these universal moments that stand out to us. We get born, that's a pretty special one. We graduate from high school or college, we get married, we have children. But what I've tried to do also in these is seek out moments that are less monumental, moments that happen, maybe mundane moments, but moments in retrospect that are worth a second look. And so that's what I've tried to do with these. And just to give you an example, we were living in Huntington, Long Island, and we had a cat named Sushi. And we had a little back door there that had a screen on it. And so I walked in the kitchen one day and then I stopped. And Sushi, my cat, was chasing a fly, caught by the screen on the kitchen door. Each move it made, she moved in more, swinging and giving the fly a smack and sending it bouncing to the screen and back to where she waited with another whack. So there's an example of sort of the mundane that becomes categorized and maybe into something, just a little moment in time that is captured in a moment that I think is worth a second look, And for me, those little moments happen sort of urgent, You're kind of going along and then something happens and it says, wow. And for some reason, that moment blossoms into an urge, blossoms into something. And sometimes it's profound, it could be something like, I'm not going to live forever. Or what, my God, I have kids in their 50s? How did that happen, But you follow these urges and they kind of coalesce. And, like one can only feel that Robert Frost, when he wrote his poem, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, guess what? He probably stopped by the woods on a snowy evening and said, whoa, what's in this? And then he reached up and grabbed it. So I have one poem that says, when to do a poem, because I was kind of exploring that. When to do a poem. After chopping wood, after flue, after molding a snow kangaroo, its pipe pouch resting on bony knees, hunched up as if to sneeze. When to do a poem? After workout? After pain? After breakfast? After rain? When does art merit a thought? Why bother? Why start? What is this urge called art? So that's kind of where poems come from. And of course, poems are made up of words. And so words are very undervalued until we give value to them. When I was in college, Robert Frost came in and dedicated a new library. And I had a chance to spend some time with him, and then we went to his address at the library. He did the poem, two roads diverged, and a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler, and so on. And he got to a certain point, and he stopped. We were sitting in the front row. He said, "Whoop, what's going on here?" He went back, he did the poem to that point again, stopped, went back and did it a third time. We thought he had a stroke. We didn't know what was going on, you know? And then he got through it, and then he looked at us and he smiled and he says, the way he says it tells you what it means. Big lesson, you know, the way he says it tells you what it means. So poetry is made up of words, and I wrote a little poem on words, perchance. It says, words. There comes a time between earth and sun to liberate words. Unlock them on your tongue, do flips with them and see them run. Words are living things, don't you see? Restless, passionate, wanting to be free, and there comes a time between earth and sun when words find that their time has come and tell us who use them for work and fun, step back, let us sing, give us room, and we'll take wing. So I kind of, as a poet, like to think of that kind of ways in which words come alive. When I think about my writing, it kind of has fallen into three different categories: poems of love, poems of thought, and poems of nature. And the first one I'm going to do is a poem of love. And I was a 23-year-old. I graduated from college to avoid Vietnam. I was teaching high school English, and I met a 17-year-old gal named Sue. Where is she? So anyhow, she's right there. 61 years later, what can I say? That's a courtship still in progress, you might say. So anyhow, so in 62, I met her. She was up at the radio station, and I met her. And so I wrote a poem a little later that said, "Come dance." And it's, "Come dance with me. Reluctance, leave it behind. Leave it with your shoes. Let it stand and watch or sit and pout. Come. Don't be shy. Be shameless. Bold. Take my hand. I'm warm. That wisp of hair, let it fall. Let it brush itself aside, or I'll brush it by. Come. Dance." So that, 4 years later, you know, Susie and I got back together, and I'd gone to graduate school and all that kind of stuff, and this poem's called Joy. And it said, "So I crept up behind you and put my hands over your eyes, and I said, guess who? Well, if she had dared to answer wrong." But when she said, "My love," I knew the name was mine, and I leaned into her, and you spun around into my arms, and we were entangled like an octopus, all arms and legs moving over and around as we laughed and fell into each other's mouths and drank deeply from each other's eyes. 3 years between when I first met Sue and when we go back together were sort of darker years. I was 23 to 26. I had gone up to acting thing up in Detroit. Then I got a position as a head of the drama department down at Transylvania College. And I was a bachelor. I was building my career. At the same time, you know, men in that age, 23 to 26, they're not connected. They're kind of lonely, desolate kind of figures sometimes. They kind of wonder what's this all about, you know? So this is a poem called No Escape, which kind of addressed that angst that I apparently felt back then. It said, "Hell's a lonely place to spend a weekend. A lovely drive away from the city into the country to find some peace in finding death instead. Not outright death, but a clawing dread that kills, not directly, but could over the remainder of life be present like a shadow, walking behind, lurking beside, sleeping beneath me every night, questioning, reminding me life is really happening, asking, what part in it are you playing?" Sometimes that angst became downright surreal. This is a poem, and it has in words in it, blue milk. And I don't know where blue milk came from, but then I found out it comes from Star Wars or some outer space animal. mummy and gives blue milk for all I know. Anyway, this is called overwhelmed. When time collapsed with reality, I have often wanted to rip off a table leg and eat it like a drumstick. Put teeth into a light bulb and find it soft. Drink blue milk and sleep. Oh, sleep on and on upon 1,000 marshmallows. But love returns. Susan and I go back together. And this poem tries to catch that warm and glowing sensation of expanding romance. It's called An Evening Out. It was raining. My coat over her shoulders, we turned and walked, not knowing where. Wet streets smelling of buses, but soft feelings, her hand in mine. We crossed the street, jumping a puddle, and then ducked into a movie. It was a winsome walk, a damp night, but warm feelings between this love of mine and me. She who loves and angers me and wrings me out and smooths and twists my emotions. Settled in our seats, I leave for cool drinks, water from the fountain in the lobby, bringing it back to her in my mouth. So, like a lot of us, we get into life, career and children become two sides of a life together. Each create challenges, and these show up in my poetry. This is called Love's Tension. Love, oh the strain of it, loving and not loving, not hating, only a little sometimes, waiting, hurriedly waiting, energy pounding inside while outside waiting the terrible smooth moment of love when work waits and children don't call. No simple thing, no minor emotion, no lasting illusions, this married oneness. I think in all marriages, once there are children, there's tension between the demands of the children and the demands of sustaining the love and joy and intimacy. So this one's called Just in Time. Just in time we have loved together between times, between all the moments that separate us, needing moments that build us up again together. The children stand on the stairs and you and I, flushed and warm from love, say hi. And we go to them and together play on the floor, and friends call and moments suspended return to time. Just in time we stole away together in the afternoon light. No covers over us, you and I, just in time together. Now the other side of a couple is the renewal and the sheer joy of having children and the fun that brings into your life. And we're living in a small village outside of Carlisle, Pennsylvania called Boiling Springs. And sort of an idyllic little community with a big, huge pond in the middle, and this wonderful spring that fed it, Boiling Springs. And we had a long piece of property, an old house on the road, but a long yard, and then a small red barn at the far end of it. Beyond that, a cornfield. So it's kind of a lovely place to have small children, and this is called family fun. The village had fallen silent, ready to pull up its covers, flick off its lights, and go to sleep. The sun had set, no moon out yet. I left by the back door, carrying the compost to the compost pit by the barn, and the children calling for their mother to come too, not knowing that she had already gone. It was pitch black, but for a shadowed lamp hung sideways by the old barn, by an old horse harness there. I emptied the scraps into the pit, and suddenly a scream, frightened cries, then laughter, and a chase. She had timed it well, taken them off guard, jumped out of the shadows with a big black hat as the skies. They ran, she chased under the stars now, laughing, rolling. Finally, they'd fallen into the grass. Neighbors' lights came on like eyes, blinking into the darkness, seeking an explanation. There was none, just spontaneous family fun. Now, My career, and I'm sure most of yours, have taken a lot of attention during certain periods while I was running the Pennsylvania State Education Program. I had to travel all over the state. And so that had a heavy impact on our lives when you're away a lot. You know, this one's called homesick. I have been away this time too long in the full moon season of work, sleeping on mattresses that are too soft and pillows that don't know my head. I miss the tumble of children in bed, the bounce us all together, stories their eyes remember and tell from dreams. I miss touching. I miss nights with you beside me, our bodies making shapes in sleep that tell of our life together. I have lost touch with the inside curve of my circle in this long, so relentless absence from home. I long for familiar space, for family circles to home in. Finally, family ties, that's what really makes us human. Be it as a father, or an aunt, a mother, experiencing the unpredictable expressions of children is one of the great delights, you know. Celebrating and really revealing their naive but insightful explanations. This is called family time. Getting home from work tired, just wanting a break, but suddenly, whew, she's on my lap. What's up today, hon? I ask. I don't like the Holy Ghost. What? I say, because it bites, she says. And the Holy Ghost usually stays in its cage, but when it gets out, I have to keep an eye on it, and an eye on it also for my little brother, too. I said, anything else? She says, well, when I grow up, I want to be a dancer and a mommy. My little brother, he wants to be a somersault. So how can you beat that from resetting your adult mind, you know, putting you back into some other kind of context? A little later, my next job was in Long Island. I was running a big regional theater called the Performing Arts Foundation of Long Island, and a part of that position was I had to go into Manhattan all the time and audition actors for our company show. So this is called Coming Down Blue. And my sister lived in East Harlem at that time, Upper East Side, so I would stay with her if I had to stay overnight. It says, Coming Down Blue. After budgets and schedules, phone calls, memos, and talk, after breaking and sending out bills, after human services and human ills, I drive in a fog to the Big Apple. Its saturated corridors alive, I look for a place to hide. Supper and news, and a quiet call to you, a blue call to you, before curling up like a mousetrap to sleep in Harlem. Now my nights in Harlem, particularly in the summer, were really wonderful. You know, it was an especially wonderful place to go. The streets were hot and alive, and they went long into the nights with sounds, you know. And that was quite a contrast from Huntington, Long Island, where we lived, you know, the North Shore and so on, where the theater was. So this was Spanish Harlem, 103rd and 2nd Avenue, and this is another one called Night Music in Harlem. Latin New York beats outside, full moon and bongo, jukebox and traffic, midnight rhythms and sounds. Streetlights highlight figures huddled in doorways, silhouetted on fire escapes. Summer heat brings on the music, and night here is not a time to sleep. Sound, darkness are the city's beat. It's soft covers you slip under and wander in delight in Harlem on a summer's night. We moved to Wilmington, North Carolina in 1997, but one of the factors was we knew the kids would like to visit here. So put that into the equation. And luckily, after after some relentless year of trying to sell supplemental vitamins in Myrtle Beach and Raleigh and Cary and riding, and oh my God, I got a job. And I don't know. I got a job as director of the Child Advocacy Commission and spent 10 years there, which were really wonderful. But the ocean does bring us together in a wonderful way, but it also is challenging. You know, it's this is called Together in Uncertainty. Okay, it was after work that we went to the beach. The sun, an orange ball, the waves pounding, the evening approaching. We set our chairs at tide line, my pink shirt blowing in the wind, tethered to the chair like a sail, my backpack as ballast. We walked into the surf, which caught us by surprise, pulling and twisting, running strong southerly down the beach. We fought our way falling into our chairs. The waves rolling under our feet, stirring chaos in the dry sand beyond, only to rush back in a torrent, drawing sand away from beneath us. Our balance was destroyed, our sensibility forced to adjust to life as it is in this uncertain and changing world. Turning 50 is a milestone for everyone, a midlife moment for reflection, a reality check-in. You know, who are we? What have we been? Where's our life leading us? I didn't write this for me. I wrote it for Susie and Tim Weckeser, and it's titled More or Less. And I like to say congratulate Ronnie today on her birthday, which is more or less. Good. This is called 50 More or Less. Okay. So, you've turned 50 today. A lot of time has gone by under the bridges that we regularly pass over. You brush aside with a furtive glance persistent dreams of another dance that won't go so fast or last so long and has perhaps a more soothing song. So you're 50. And you don't feel any different. You wash your hair, brush your teeth, and the cat still purrs when you enter the room and rolls in the carpet for her daily groom. Perhaps today she'll dispel your gloom. I don't miss 50, even though I was there for a while. It's just another mark, another mile. But you turn 50 today and you know you're loved. And the miles and the bridges and the time and the trials converge like a blossom about to bloom in a garden growing in the dark of the moon. Health. This is a big one. At 62, I found myself with colon cancer, a reality that I thought deserved a poem. And so this is mine. This is a cancer poem. I wrote a number of them. And this one is called Appropriate Cancer. Surrounded by flowers and love, I rest. The surgery's over. The pain controlled, my emotions balanced somewhere in the tubes and pumps and buttons and alarms, comfort contained like a droplet in Cuban ice. I'm not naive. The pain will find its way. Now, however, it's a distant thing. I sit up in bed, contemplative, nearly undone, filled with expectation. I sit waiting some input, some outcome, some objective balance. What if or what will be? In a universe of my own, I sit suspended, my emotions stayed, my center, the still point of all I've known, fragile as a flower. The Old South is surely still here. The struggle for a new kind of South, though, is also here. I am a political guy, and this poem reflects on that struggle. It's called Mint Juleps, anyone? The Old South stands stiffly by its magnolia trees, its white linen suits and finery pressed yet yellowed now by age and change, its grandeur a relic for forget-me-nots. The stately homes, now shrines or clubs, are deteriorating heaps in backcountry fields overcome by mice and kudzu vines. The master, a ghost long gone. New tides have come or on their way, new equalities, overcoming faux gentilities. New faces at last have found their day, and the magnolias, tangled in their own neglect, struggle to bloom even as they decay. There's another poem that I brought in today because, you know, we have a friend, some of you are visual artists, and when is a painting done? The Mona Lisa with them for 30 years or something. So, you know, some art is always in process, even if it's fixed. So this is a poem that's in the book that I changed. So here, this is called Reflection. This is what's in the book. It says, Reflection. Today is the day, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Today is all we have. Grasping each minute for meaning, moving in time with the times, losing what we cannot contain, knowing it will not come again. Straining to hold full measure of what now is as we unfold like a flag holding place in turbulent winds. Okay, so the word I changed, remember Robert Frost saying, well, no, not Robert Frost, this is Mark Twain. He said the difference between the word and the almost word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. So I thought I might have a bug in here. So we'll give it a chance. So what I changed was, I changed the word unfold, because that felt passive. I'm unfolding something. You know, it said, as we unfold like a flag holding place in turbulent winds. It's sort of, okay, we're unfolding, but we're still, you know, so what? What's going on? So I changed it to the word, listen for the word that I changed it to, okay, see if you agree. It says, today is the day, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Today is all we have. Grasping each minute for meaning, moving in time with the times, losing what we cannot contain, knowing it will not come again. Straining to hold full measure of what now is as we soldier on like a flag holding place in turbulent winds. Soldier on. As I mentioned, poetry of thought, poetry of love, and poetry of nature. The next poem is one poetry of thought, and this one's, I think all of us, how many of you sometimes think that your mind and your body is out of sync? I could stand up and dance, second thought. May need that. Our time past is very much a part of our time present, but really isn't. So that's what the poem's trying to get at. It's called Timeless. And I wrote this on Figure 8 Island when I was walking one day, I guess I was 74, and I did this. It says, the sea, this sand, has been here even as it has not under the same and different moon. And I, an old man, stand knee-deep in memory, remembering my first time here, recognizing that I, too, am the same, but not somehow. I am who I was, but not so now. So you're trying to deal with that kind of questions about life and our history and our present. I mentioned that the poems for me emerge usually from seeing something or feeling something. Some urge comes up and I feel restless, so I try to give it some language, meaning. And this next poem emerged after seeing a truly extraordinary production of La Traviata at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. And I remember even before I left my seat, I started to kind of write ideas or something. It was just a moving production. It just moved me in a way that was just wonderful, as great theater and great art can. It just is breathtaking. It just worked. So this is called the unbearable closeness of love. The unbearable closeness of love, the edge before the fall, the exhale after the breath is gone. Oh, hold me close. I know you were there, been there, almost all there. Now, is it too late to hold on for all again? Hold on and not despair? For we were there, almost all there, within a breath of being, a very dying in the same and intimate air. And you know, to be honest, this poem is one that I don't really understand yet. You know, some poems have sort of a, what do you call it, spinning locks on them. You know, you've got to get the right numbers to open up the safe. And I'm still spinning that dial on this poem. What really is it? What does it really say? It has meaning, it has great depth to me. But I acknowledge it does have a mystery yet, which is okay. You know, as you grow into your 80s, you don't do it without thinking a little bit about death sometimes, you know. Particularly when you have a lot of health issues. So I have two takes on death. Okay? And one looks at death, I think, objectively. It's a mystery. And the other looks at death as someone who has had more than their share of great living. So here's the first one, death. Death is a word with no sympathy, hanging in space, hovering over us all. Death. Imagery does not provide a satisfying look beyond, only a final stillness with wisps of religious hope. Death, a dead weight really, that is in itself breathless. And then, a couple of years later, 81, I wrote this one, Death Wish. When I die, if you're the last to see me when I go, no, I was ready, be it quick or slow. Life's a gift, and mine's been bountiful. Love, we just let it grow and grow. So please, celebrate that when I go. And a couple of years later, I did this one. This is called More Like a Prayer. I have found of late clusters of little goodbyes creeping into our conversations at bedtime. A hug, a squeeze of the finger along with assurances, I love you, and a whisper, I'll miss you when you're gone. Conversations between us as we age under the covers near sleep. Conscious or unconscious as we age, our mortality clusters around us like a cloud as we find it more difficult to kneel cleaning under a sofa or stand stirring a soup. Sunshine warms but portends a cooler future when these little goodbyes are more like a prayer than a whisper. In the end, you know, all we have is all we have. And that's enough. There's a poem called This Is Now Enough. Over the stillness of the woods, the stars glisten like surprises. Lying back on earth, looking into space, infinite, obscure. My mind wants so much more, but in the time I have, this is now enough. And then I'm going to conclude with what's sort of my signature poem, I think. This is called Meditation. In the forest, where the branches reach out like dancers, and the light pours through the trees, accenting twig and leaf and flower, all nature rejoices. And I, no stranger here, fold my hands and come to rest. All time is here, All things are here, all beginnings and all ends. In this mixture of earth and light and water, all faculties are formed, all functions are found. In the poetry of the woods, we are no different, save the difference of being aware of gifts received and aware of gifts we have yet to give. Kathleen for giving us this opportunity. I want to thank Eric and Steve for being the bartenders tonight. And there's lots of biscottis, and there is a biscotti there for any. You get a little packet of biscottis if you want to buy a book. You get a little packet of biscottis if you already have a book. You get a little packet of biscottis. Think about John Mike want to have.